much is being made of feni as the heritage liquor of Goa. I visited the Adinco Distilleries, a family-run business in the south. I was fascinated to find that apart from feni, it makes over 24 types of liquors, including wine, brandy, rum, whiskey, gin, and also chocolates. The business is constantly innovating the processes, categories, and packaging. Joining us on the show today is Solomon Diniz, the low-profile boss of the distillery. Solomon, with so many categories of liquor, your distillery is rather unusual, isn't it? How did it start?
Sandhya, yes, we basically I am the fourth generation now, and the feni business was started with my great grandfather Martin Diniz, and followed by Domingos Diniz, and my dad Alleluia, and now it's me carrying on the legacy of my ancestors. Yes, feni has been very close to our heart. It's not about making alcohol; it's more like an emotion to us, and making the right feni is something which we have always focused on. The same traditional methods, for example, are still being followed at the distillery. So if you can come anytime, you will always see there's some 4 pot stills which are, always pouring out good feni. And coming to feni, there were so many variations of feni before, which was served in various bars across Goa. Now you can see no more of those variations, like in Konkani, we used to say ale, jire, mire, duchiri, lemongrass. So they were in my own mother's bar. It was called Adinco Bar. We had 15 different types of coconut feni being served.
Okay, so these are all the botanicals that would be infused into the feni?
Yes. So we'll get a normal coconut feni, put it in 15 different garrafons, and infuse them with all the botanicals and keep them. And slowly, then we put in smaller bottles and take it to the bar counter, which today is called a speed rail. And that's where they were being served. Yeah.
So garrafons are those gorgeous, huge glass bottles
Yes.
that I saw in the distillery.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Those are the garrafons, yeah.
Okay, so I want to step back a little bit to the origin of the Adinco tavern or bar. And I think the story starts from there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
the story of the modern day Adinco Distilleries begins from there.
Yeah.
So tell us how it started. And I've heard that your mother played a very important role in it.
She did, yes. Basically, my dad had the license of a bar and it was there. But after marriage, this bar just took off with the lovely food my mother used to serve. And she was mostly known for beef roast, pork, and all the vindalos. And this is what people used to come to savor. It wasn't a bar as such. Those days it was more like a house and one of the rooms we used to serve. And that's where most of the locals used to come to relish on her lovely food. Yeah.
What is her name?
Her name is Maria Francisca Conceição Fernandes Diniz, but she was sweetly called Connie.
Connie?
Yeah.
And what was the name of the tavern?
It was Adinco Bar.
Adinco Bar.
Yeah.
And I heard there are plans for a revival.
Yes, I'm seriously thinking of restarting the bar the way it used to be and just getting back those memories. It is a tribute to what my mother did those days and to what Adinco is today. With my parents' efforts, Adinco was a small tavern and today it's grown up to be a decent distillery and making good alcohol. And the same principles are being followed to churn out some wonderful liqueurs, to port wines, to whiskies and brandies. Yes, we have come a long way.
So would it be right if I use your own tagline that what Adinco gives is the flavor of Goa in a bottle?
Yeah, it would be correct. I'm fortunate enough to say Cabo today has become, so to say, a takeaway of Goa. It's like, which I didn't start it to be such, but people have made this as a takeaway because it's like Goa in a bottle, from its bottle design to the artwork on the bottle to everything inside it. It's coconutty and so much of Goa. So if anybody is going back to his hometown, they would definitely love to carry a bottle of Cabo.
That's the distinctive white bottle. And there's a story behind the evolution of the bottle design, isn't it? The earlier design, many years ago, was not this coconut.
No, it was.
What was it?
Cabo is actually a place down south in Goa where the Fort Cabo de Rama is. Now, Cabo de Rama Fort is right on the cliff, and Cabo also happens to be the birthplace of my mother. So I felt it was the right name to give for this brand back in those days. So the front label was the front side of the fort, and the back label was the back side of the fort. So this is how the design was initially. But later it evolved to what it is today, depicting Goa in a bottle.
And it's a beautiful white ceramic bottle with the coconut.
Yes, it's a white glass bottle with the coconut and the seashore and the birds flying and the sun setting.
Tell me, you also make a very interesting wine which is not commonly available anywhere else, the Mumtaz wine. What's the story behind Mumtaz?
Mumtaz is a private label I'm doing for a very good friend of mine. Normally, we don't do private labels, but this gentleman approached me and requested. I said, his name is Mr. Ganeshan. And I said, wow, for you, anything, Ganeshan. And what is that you want me to do for you? He said, I like your port wine. I want in my own name, wherein I want to market it as Mumtaz. And that's where I decided, okay, for you, I will do it. So is it something that you see becoming popular? I've heard that, for example, when people want to celebrate a special occasion, either a marriage or an anniversary or something, they ask for, limited edition special labels specifically made. Is it something that you also do at your distillery? Yeah, people do approach for special labels, but it is not that easy because there are excise formalities for labels. So what we do is we do give them port wine label with our brand, but they will remove the label, and then at their homes they will put their own label in a bottle specifically which they want. Suppose the design of the bottle, they want around 50 bottles, 100 bottles, 200. They will give us the bottles. We will label them with our label as per excise rules, but they will remove this once they are in their house, and they'll put their own private labels for the occasion. So you've been making feni, rum, wine, whiskies, brandies of various kinds. But over the last few years, I think your gins have taken quite a big leap forward. And tell us how you got into making gin. Okay, that's an interesting story again. So the name of our brand is Tickle Gin. So coming back to the story of the name, it goes back in 2009, wherein I was with my friends in one of the taverns in Panjim. I'm normally a beer drinker. I love my beers. So they were having their whiskeys. So, Solomon, what do you like? I said, I like my beer. So one of them said, Solomon, someday have something very hard. Why all? That's when I said, okay, I'll try a gin. To which one of his friends said, oh, I'm feeling so ticklish. I said, wait a minute. I said, that's a nice name for a gin. So I immediately checked whether this name is available, and it was available. And that's how we came up with the name Tickle. So going forward in making the product itself, I took a help from some of the fine distillers, and this lady, her name is Olga. She helped me in developing this gin. I told her I wanted on certain lines and certain notes which have to be stronger, and I want the ticklish finish. So to which we came up with a raw mango thing infused in this gin. And finally, when the product was ready, it was really lovely. I would say it does tickle your taste buds. And that's a dry gin. Yes, it is. So what do you feel about this influx of gins that are happening in Goa, and how does Tickle compare with the rest of the gin? See, as an industry for gin, I would say it is a very good thing that so many ideas, concepts, a young blood entering the industry. It is making India a platform for craft. As a whole, I'm so happy that today India can churn out some wonderful drinks. I always believe that India has the best botanicals, and the best gin has to come from none other than India. And that is exactly what is happening. And given the price points, Indian gins are not less affordable. They are, in fact, more expensive than the imported ones. But still, these gins sell. which goes to say that yes, the Indian consumer also has evolved, is accepting Indian brands. That thing of mujhe videshi chahiye, I want a foreign gin, it's not there anymore, I would say. At the same time, we should take care in maintaining this quality and always notching it up and making it better and better. So one day, Indian alcoholic brands will be truly recognized as some international quality products.
And you just launched a new variant of the tickle?
Yes, we have launched the Tickle Intense. So the Tickle Intense takes three kind of procedures. The normal tickle is just cold press, which is taken to sub-zero, and then we are extracting the botanical. But in the Intense, we have cold extraction happening. Then we distill it, and in the final stage, we will see if any botanical is less or more. We will accordingly balance it through infusion. So it is a more complex and much more palatable, more smoother. And one of the alcohol sommeliers, so to say, he compared it. Tickle cold press is like a college boy to me, while the Tickle Intense is like a PhD guy to me. I love that line so much that I keep remembering it's a very good comparison. Yeah.
Solomon, is there any truth to the belief that more women than men prefer gin?
It was earlier a feminine drink, considered more like gin is like, actually gin is like a flavored vodka. Actually, it was termed that, but I wouldn't say today it is just a feminine drink, but I would say it's a unisex drink. So everybody's enjoying gin today, whether it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. It's people just love a good drink.
Right. So let's talk about your new whiskey. Earlier too, you were making whiskies, but what is very different? Why have you positioned your latest Kotumbi Reserve in a special manner?
Kotumbi is the place where we distill and do everything. The region, the village name is Kotumbi.
That's in South Goa.
Yes. It's on the banks of the river Pushavati, and this is where my forefathers did their feni. So it was a lot of weight to do justice to this name. So thinking about it, we said we have to have the right USP for this whiskey. We have to do something very different, which is never tried. And taking all these points into account, 3 years back we started, more than 3 years, sorry. We started to work on this. Today the whiskey is out in the market a couple of months back. But the journey was quite interesting. The main aspect of this whiskey is that normally for a bourbon whiskey, a peated, they will use the oak tree. They will char the oak barrels, they will burn them, and then put the whiskey for maturation, and that's it. What we did differently is I didn't want a wood. So the best alternate for that was the coconut shell. So we charred the coconut shell, infused in vats, and this infusion was kept for 2 months. And there was a normal whiskey also, which was made, which was neutral without any chard. So after distillation, this charred whiskey was then added to the normal whiskey. This after putting it in the bigger vat, the both whiskeys were combined, and it was kept for an year for it to mature along with the oak infusions that in terms of chips we used to use. So we use a deep roasted oak chip, we use a vanilla toasted oak chip, and a neutral oak chip. So over the period of 12 months, the whiskey mellows down and becomes a nice, rounded up and so palatable. It's not very peated. It's not a blended whiskey either. It's just normal. It's not a normal blended whiskey, I would say. But it's a nice combination of charred and blend coming in great sense of flavors coming up together to give that nice charred taste to your whiskey.
It has a very, very mellow and very woodsy, aftertaste.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very nice indeed. Okay.
And this comes from the nut itself. The coconut is a non-porous wood, so it has so much of so many notes in it, which the oils which come, it's all from the coconut shell itself. And I would say proudly, I'm so happy to be making this probably one of the first whiskey in the world which has used coconut shell to char the whiskey.
Congratulations on that. That's quite an innovative and only a passionate distiller would have come up with that thing, I think.
Thank you, Sandhya.
So, I'm very partial to the liquor chocolates that I had the opportunity to taste. Tell us how you got involved in that.
This was in the year around 2013 or 14. I don't exactly remember. When we thought of surrogate branding was required to market our liquors. So everybody comes with a water, some soda, or some other collateral like a music CD or something. I came up with chocolate. And what a beautiful combination of alcohol and dark chocolate. So what we do, we didn't have any policy to manufacture liquor chocolates. So the Goa Excise Department, I sat with the commissioner, and he was very open-minded, very helpful. He was such a gentleman, and he just got it done in less than 6 months. The policy came out. We were one of the first license holders, and we are the only license holders to manufacture liquor chocolates in India right now. And the chocolates are doing pretty well by themselves. Of course, it helps the branding, but it has become a business by itself in its own identity, which we never saw. It was just an idea to market. But people have so well accepted the chocolate, it has become a business by itself today. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I just step back a little bit to the point where we started this conversation to talk about the fennies. I've been reading that fenny earlier, it was just considered a one time thing. People visiting Goa would just take it to feel, let me experience it. But after that, they would not be very fond of drinking it. And it was considered a very harsh drink. How is it now that it's becoming more acceptable? What do you think is happening? I know there are other distillers who have taken it upon themselves to push this heritage branding. So, all of it must also actually rest a lot on how the taste of feni is evolving. Is there any change in the way feni is being distilled?
No, there is no change in the way feni is being distilled. The traditional distillers who are very passionate, who wants to benchmark feni in the international shelf space, they will not cut corners, they will not take shortcuts. It will be followed the way it has to be done. Yes, feni as a drink, if you just drink it neat, many people will find it very strong and not something which is very palatable. But with the new trend of cocktails coming on the shelves, on the bar counters, so it has become more palatable. People are enjoying feni. They love all the concoctions which are being churned out by the very lovely bartenders across Goa today. Yes, and that's what has made feni more acceptable. People are loving it. And feni now, because of the branding and young minds coming in the picture, we have elevated the quality of the feni, the way it is manufactured, standardization of the processes, which has helped to make feni as a brand by itself. Feni was lost because of the shortcuts and the method it was produced. So people had shifted to other alcohols. But it's good to see feni coming back and people really enjoying it.
Are you planning to do anything more in the space of feni to celebrate the heritage?
Yes, we have come with something very unique again. As I told earlier, my mother is to have 15 variation of coconut feni. So we are trying to put up a small tasting room in the distillery space, wherein it is completely cut out from the main distillery. It is more in the amongst the coconut trees. In this room, we will show how feni's had the combinations of food pairing of the variation. For example, if you have plain coconut feni, those days many people used to have a chana or a small snack, maybe pickle also. So we are trying to document all that and bring how the fenies used to be had. And this will be in this small room, showcasing how it was before. Many of these even had medicinal values. So if anybody had a very sore throat or a headache, they will use a normal coconut feni. And yes, it is to work wonders, especially the jeera feni was used when you had fever. It should be applied on your belly button and just help a lot.
So whether it is consumed as a drink or applied on any part of the body, feni worked its magic.
Yes, it did.
Do you specialize only in coconut feni or do you also do cashew feni?
We do cashew feni as well, but as you know, it's a seasonal drink. It's just 3 months of the fruit that we get. So we do this in another property in a place called Sandhya, where we distill cashew feni for 3 months in this very secluded part of Goa. And that's it. After that, the pot stills are lying vacant. So we'll use it for coconut feni for the rest of the.
Fantastic. And what I did notice when I visited the distillery was the number of young people, boys and girls, in their colorful attire, working on the, the bottling and the various processes of the brand being sent out to the market. How many of these people do you employ? And is it like an all year round employment?
Yes, we mainly focus on being woman powered. So we have 90% women workforce in our factory. So having ladies is more like they won't drink much.
So there's less pilferage of your own liquor.
Yeah. And also the men, they will be handling the more laborious work, which the women might not be able to handle. So we have 10% of the man force. And yes, see, my strength is my workforce. They are so dedicated. They will check to every detailing how it is. We have to just show them once, and they will set the standards right from first bottle to the 100th bottle. And it will be day in and day out, 365 days. There are no shortcuts. And I'm so happy to be blessed with such a workforce who love their work. And they are all from the village and surrounding areas. So it's more like a family to us.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time, Solomon. And here's wishing you luck in your new adventures with Adinco Distilleries.
Thank you, Sandhya. It was a pleasure. I really thank you for this opportunity you have given me. And God bless you as well.
Thank you. And to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spotlight with Sandhya as much as I did. Do subscribe to the podcast. I would love to hear from you. The links are in the bio below. I'll be back soon with another interesting guest. Until then, take care and bye-bye.